First Contact's Price. The consortium's Grand Assembly Hall on Station Omega 7 sparkled with bioluminescent crystals, casting an ethereal glow across the gathered representatives of 50 spacefaring species. Admiral Sarah Chen stood before them, her weathered face betraying none of the anger that burned beneath her diplomatic smile. 20 years of mutual cooperation had led to this moment. Distinguished members of the consortium, she began, her voice steady, despite the weight of what was to come. Humanity thanks you for this audience. The words tasted bitter in her mouth, each syllable a reminder of decades of carefully crafted subservience. High Speaker Zixtal, his crystalline form refracting light in patterns that supposedly indicated pleasure, gestured with one of his 4 upper appendages. The consortium always welcomes dialogue with our resource partners. Please share your petition. Resource partners. The euphemism made Chen's jaw clench. That's all humanity had been to them. A convenient source of labor, creativity, and resources, all wrapped in the gleaming package of uplifting a younger species. We come not with a petition, but with a notice, Chen replied, activating the holographic display. The assembly hall filled with images of the Proxima Centauri colony, or rather, what remained of it. 3 days ago, the consortium's development council authorized the relocation of our colony for what was termed essential mineral extraction. Murmurs rippled through the gathered aliens. Zixtal's crystalline surface flickered with patterns that Chen had learned meant mild annoyance. The council acted within established protocols. Your species signed the Resource Management Agreement of 2157, which clearly states, an agreement signed under duress is no agreement at all. Chen interrupted, causing gasps among the more traditional members. We've compiled evidence of systematic manipulation dating back to First Contact. The medical aid that saved millions from the Pacific Plague. It came with patents that made us dependent on consortium pharmaceuticals. The defensive shield technology that protected us from solar flares. Limited versions that required constant maintenance from consortium technicians. The holographic display shifted, showing document after document, conversation after conversation. 20 years of humanity playing the grateful primitive species while quietly documenting every manipulation, every hidden clause, every carefully orchestrated crisis that pushed Earth further under consortium control. But Proxima Centauri was your mistake, Chen continued. You assumed we would simply accept the displacement of 50,000 colonists. You assumed wrong. Zixtal's surface now rippled with patterns of alarm. Admiral Chen, if you are suggesting, I'm not suggesting anything. I'm informing you that as of 0000 hours Earth Standard Time, humanity has activated the Phoenix Protocol. Our representatives are simultaneously delivering this message to every consortium facility in human space. You have 6 hours to begin the evacuation of all consortium personnel from human territories. The assembly erupted into chaos. A Medusan representative's tentacles writhed in agitation. You cannot possibly hope to enforce such a demand. The consortium's military capacity is significantly overestimated, Chen finished. Above them, the holographic display showed new images, massive shipyards hidden in asteroid belts, weapons platforms disguised as communication relays, and fleets of ships that had never appeared on any consortium registry. While you saw us as simple resources to be managed, we were learning, adapting, preparing. Every trade agreement, every technology exchange, every collaborative project, we were studying you as much as you were studying us, perhaps more. Zixtal's crystalline form had lost all its luster, now a dull, worried gray. This is unprecedented. The consequences will be severe, yes, for someone. Chen's smile never wavered. 6 hours, distinguished members. Any consortium military assets remaining in human space after that deadline will be considered hostile forces. Any attempt at economic retaliation will trigger the release of evidence showing how the consortium has manipulated 17 other developing species. I wonder how your own client races will react to that information. As she turned to leave, Chen paused at the chamber's entrance. "Oh, and one more thing. Those limited defensive shields you sold us. We fixed them, improved them, just like we improved everything else you thought you were keeping just out of our reach. Consider that when you make your decisions in the next 6 hours." The chamber doors closed behind her with a soft hiss, leaving the consortium representatives to face a reality they had never imagined. Humanity had never been merely patient. They had been waiting. Silent preparation. Director Marcus Wong stood in the heart of Olympus Base, deep within Mars Valles Marineris, watching holographic displays of consortium ships frantically departing human space. The massive underground facility, officially listed as an abandoned mining complex, housed the nerve center of humanity's Phoenix Protocol. 20 years of preparation were finally bearing fruit. Status report. He called out to the command center staff, his voice echoing off walls lined with quantum computing arrays that the consortium believed humans were decades away from developing. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, head of the Reverse Engineering Division, stepped forward. 97% of our sleeper tech has been activated. The consortium's sensor networks are going dark system by system. They're blind in most of human space now. She allowed herself a small smile. They still haven't realized we weren't just copying their technology. We were fundamentally reinventing it. The main display showed the fruits of humanity's patient labor. What the consortium had dismissed as primitive shipyards now shed their camouflage, revealing advanced manufacturing facilities. Defensive platforms that had appeared to be simple shield generators transformed, unveiling weapon systems that incorporated technology from a dozen different consortium species, all improved upon by human ingenuity. They thought they were being clever, Wong mused, giving us just enough technology to be useful, but not enough to be a threat. They never understood that humans don't just use tools. We master them, improve them, combine them in ways their original creators never imagined. A junior officer rushed up with a datapad. "Sir, we're detecting consortium military vessels mobilizing at their border stations. Looks like they're preparing for a show of force." Wong nodded. This had been anticipated. Activate Phase 2. Let's show them what 20 years of sandbox testing has produced. Across human space, hidden facilities hummed to life. The consortium had always wondered why humans seemed so accepting of their restricted technology, never realizing that each limitation had pushed humanity to innovate in unexpected ways. When they couldn't build bigger engines, humans made them more efficient. When they were denied advanced AI, humans developed hybrid systems that combined computing with human intuition in ways that surpassed pure artificial intelligence. Fleet Commander Harrison reports all ships in position. Another officer announced, "The Prometheus defense grid is online." The Prometheus grid, perhaps humanity's greatest achievement and best-kept secret. When the consortium had provided their limited shield technology, they hadn't expected humans to discover how to link multiple shield generators into a single, massive defensive network. Every human settlement, ship and station could now share power and defensive capabilities, making the sum far greater than its parts. Message from Admiral Chen, Rodriguez reported. "The Consortium Council is demanding an emergency session. They're claiming we violated at least 15 different technology restriction treaties." Wong allowed himself a dry chuckle. "Send them our standard response. All treaties signed under demonstrably fraudulent conditions are considered null and void. Then activate the data dumps to their client races." The command center erupted in controlled activity as the carefully orchestrated plan continued to unfold. Screens showed consortium communication networks flooding with data, evidence of manipulation, secret protocols, hidden agendas, 2 decades of documented exploitation, not just of humanity, but of every developing species the consortium had helped. "Sir," Rodriguez called out, her voice tight with excitement, "we're getting responses from other species. The Arcturians have already announced they're suspending their consortium membership. The Centaurian Collective is demanding an audit of all their technology agreements." Wong nodded. This had been the true genius of humanity's plan. They hadn't just prepared to fight the consortium. They'd prepared to break its power completely. Every piece of restricted technology, every manipulative treaty, every hidden clause had been documented and shared with other exploited species. The consortium wasn't just facing the human rebellion. They were facing the complete collapse of their authority. New contact. A sensor operator called out. Multiple consortium warships just dropped out of FTL at the edge of the Sol system. Reading weapons hot. Right on schedule, Wong muttered. Initiate Operation Mirror. Across the solar system, human ships that had appeared to be retreating suddenly shifted formation. What had looked like a scattered withdrawal was revealed as an intricate tactical pattern. The consortium warships found themselves caught in a web of overlapping fields of fire, their supposedly superior technology countered by human innovations they'd never seen before. Send the final warning, Wong ordered. Let them know that any aggressive action will be met with overwhelming force. Remind them that we're not interested in conquest. We just want to be left alone as equals. As the message was transmitted, Wong studied the tactical display. The consortium ships held position, caught between their orders and the sudden realization that they faced an opponent they had dangerously underestimated. Humanity had never been the primitive species they'd assumed. They had simply been very, very patient. Sir, Rodriguez said quietly, do you think they'll actually fight? Wong shook his head. No, they're bureaucrats at heart. They'll bluster and threaten. But in the end, they'll do what bureaucrats always do. They'll negotiate. And this time, they'll have to negotiate with us as equals. The display showed more ships arriving. But not consortium vessels. These were from other client species, their signals broadcasting support for humanity's stand against consortium dominance. The carefully laid plan was working perfectly. The age of consortium manipulation was ending, not with a bang, but with the quiet revolution of truth being revealed. Breaking point. The Proxima Centauri colony hung in space like a jewel, its massive environmental domes gleaming under the red dwarf's light. High Commander Vex Thor of the Consortium Enforcement Fleet watched it through the bridge viewport of his flagship, the Eternal Dawn. His chitinous mandibles clicked in annoyance as he reviewed the humans' defiant response to his ultimatum. They refused to evacuate, his executive officer, Krell, reported unnecessarily. They claim any attempt to forcibly remove the colony will be considered an act of war. Vex Thor's compound eyes shifted through shades of irritation. These humans have forgotten their place. Perhaps it's time to remind them why the consortium's authority is absolute. He raised his primary appendage. Begin the displacement procedure. Across the fleet, weapons powered up. The show of force was meant to intimidate, standard procedure for dealing with recalcitrant client species. None of the previous species had ever dared to resist once the consortium showed its military might. Sir, Krell's voice carried an unusual note of concern. We're detecting energy signatures from the colony. They're unlike anything in our database. Before Vex Thor could respond, the space around Proxima Centauri colony shimmed. What had appeared to be standard environmental shields transformed, revealing layers of interlocking energy fields far more sophisticated than anything humans should have possessed. Impossible, Vex Thor chittered. Their shield technology is restricted to Mark III generators. This is beyond Mark VII. Transmission cut through their communications. The human face that appeared on the screen was calm, almost serene. This is Colonel Maya Patul of the Proxima Defense Force. Your fleet has entered restricted space. You have 5 minutes to withdraw. Vex Thor's mandibles clacked in amusement. Or what, human? You'll file another petition. The consortium's authority, Patil interrupted, is no longer recognized in human space. This is your only warning. Vex Thor turned to his tactical officer. Show these primitives the cost of defiance. Target their primary agricultural dome. A hungry colony is a compliant colony. The Eternal Dawn's main cannon charge, its energy signature building to levels that could shatter any known shield. The beam lashed out, a spear of pure energy that should have torn through the colony's defenses. Should have. Instead, the beam struck the colony's shields and disappeared. Not deflected, not absorbed, simply ceased to exist. Impossible. Vexthor's kitten paled. Where did the energy go? His answer came in the form of dozens of small objects suddenly appearing around his fleet. Objects that had been cloaked using technology the consortium had thought safely restricted. Energy sync modules. Paddle's voice came through again, combined with quantum redistribution fields. Your own weapon designs, actually, just improved upon. Would you like to see how we modified them? The objects pulsed, and Vexthor watched in horror as the exact same energy his ship had fired was released back at his fleet, from all directions at once. 3 of his support ships disappeared in balls of plasma before their shields could even react. All ships, evasive action. He screamed, but it was already too late. The humans hadn't just copied consortium technology. They'd mastered it, evolved it, turned it into something new and terrifying. More ships emerged from cloaked positions around the colony. Human ships, but not the primitive vessels they'd been allowed to build. These were sleek, powerful, and bristling with weapons that shouldn't have existed. The consortium restricted our official shipyards. Paddle explained, almost conversationally. So we built unofficial ones. You restricted our AI research, so we developed hybrid systems that surpassed pure AI. Every limitation you placed on us became a challenge to overcome. Did you really think humanity would just accept artificial constraints on our development? Vexthor's tactical display was a chaos of warnings. His ships were being targeted by weapons that didn't match any known signature. Their shields were being disrupted by frequencies that shouldn't have been possible. And through it all, that human colony stood untouched, its enhanced shields glowing with power that no client race should have possessed. Fall back, he ordered, his pride crumbling in the face of this unexpected resistance. All ships, emergency withdrawal. As his fleet retreated in disarray, Patel's final transmission followed them. Consider this a demonstration of humanity's patience and what happens when it finally runs out. The next incursion into human space will be met with significantly less restraint. In the aftermath, as Vexthor prepared to face the Consortium Council's fury over this disaster, he realized a terrible truth. They had spent decades carefully managing humanity's development, never realizing that humanity had been doing exactly the same thing to them. Every restriction, every limitation, every careful control had been turned into an opportunity for innovation. The humans hadn't just been waiting for this moment. They had been preparing for it, using the consortium's own arrogance as a shield for their true developments. And now, as reports flooded in of similar demonstrations across human space, as other client species began questioning their own relationships with the consortium, Vexthor understood that this wasn't just a colonial rebellion. This was the beginning of a fundamental shift in the galaxy's power structure. And it had all started because the consortium had made one crucial mistake. They had assumed humanity's compliance meant submission, when in reality, it had been the patience of a predator studying its prey. The counterstrike. The consortium's central command on Nexus Station was in chaos. Emergency reports flooded in from every sector of space where humanity had established colonies. High Counselor Zenra, her crystalline form flickering with patterns of distress, watched as the tactical display showed yet another consortium fleet retreating from human space. How? She demanded of the gathered emergency council. How did we miss this level of technological advancement? First speaker Malkan, his gaseous form swirling with anxiety, projected his thoughts into the shared consciousness field. We were monitoring all their official research facilities, all their sanctioned development programs. Everything was within acceptable parameters. Because they wanted us to see what they wanted us to see, a new voice cut in. Dr. Xanth, the consortium's chief xenoanthropologist, moved his amorphous form into the center of the chamber. We fundamentally misunderstood human psychology. We saw their acceptance of our restrictions as submission. Instead, It was adaptation. The tactical display updated again. Across human space, hidden facilities were revealing themselves. Shipyards emerging from asteroids, research stations decloaking in gas-giant atmospheres, defense platforms appearing in supposedly empty space. Each revelation showed years, decades, of careful preparation. New report from the Arcturus sector, an aide announced. The human colony there just neutralized a consortium peacekeeping fleet without firing a single shot. They used some kind of mass-dampening field we've never seen before. Just turned off their engines, left them stranded in space. Zenra's crystalline surface rippled with patterns of frustration. What are their demands? What do they want? Nothing, Dr. Xanth replied simply. That's what makes this so brilliant. They're not demanding anything. They're simply stating facts. Human space is now independent. Our authority is no longer recognized, and any military action will be met with overwhelming force. The display shifted to show another human innovation, a network of interconnected quantum communication relays that had somehow been hidden within the consortium's own communication system. Through this network, humanity was broadcasting evidence of consortium manipulation to every client species in known space. They're not just breaking away, Malkan realized, his gaseous form condensing in shock. They're breaking our entire system of control. Reports continued to pour in. The Arcturians had already suspended their membership in the consortium. The Centaurian collective was demanding immediate renegotiation of all technology treaties. The Proxima League had declared itself independent, using human-provided shield technology to enforce their declaration. It's a cascade effect, Dr. Xanth observed. Every restriction we placed on humanity forced them to innovate in ways we never anticipated. When we limited their AI development, they created hybrid systems that combined artificial and human intelligence in ways we never imagined. When we restricted their quantum communications, they developed entirely new subspace protocols. A new alert flashed across the tactical display. The human fleet was moving, not toward consortium space, but to the borders of their own territory. They were establishing a defensive perimeter, using technologies that seemed to combine aspects of a dozen different species innovations. Look at their ship designs, Dr. Xanth continued, a note of admiration in his psychic voice. They didn't just copy our technology. They understood it, improved it, combined different species approaches in ways we never considered. While we thought we were keeping them contained, they were learning from every restriction we placed on them. High Counselor Zenra's crystalline form dulled with resignation. Options. We have none, Malkan replied. Our military advantage is gone. Our technological superiority is a myth. Our political authority is crumbling as other species learn the truth about our manipulation. We could attempt a full military response, another counselor suggested. Commit all our forces. To what end? Dr. Xanth interrupted. The humans have demonstrated they can counter our best technology. More importantly, they've shown remarkable restraint. They're not seeking revenge or conquest. They're simply establishing boundaries. The tactical display updated one final time, showing a comprehensive map of human space. What had once seemed like scattered colonies now revealed itself as an intricately planned defensive network. Every system supported every other system. Every technology complemented and enhanced the others. They were never just building colonies, Zenra realized. They were building a fortress, an entire fortress network disguised as a scattered group of settlements. And now we have a choice. Dr. Xanth concluded. We can accept the new reality and adapt, or we can fight and risk losing everything. The humans have already won. They're just giving us the dignity of choosing how we lose. In the silence that followed, the consortium leadership faced a truth they had never expected. Their carefully maintained system of control hadn't just been broken. It had been systematically dismantled by a species they had gravely underestimated. The age of consortium dominance was over, undone not by force of arms, but by human ingenuity, patience, and the unifying desire for freedom. New dawn. 1 year after humanity's revelation of its true capabilities, the galactic landscape had transformed beyond recognition. The new Alexandria space station, built through a collaboration of former consortium client species, hosted the first galactic cooperative assembly. Its architecture itself was a statement, combining the best aspects of a dozen species' design philosophies into something entirely new. Admiral Sarah Chen stood at the podium, looking out over representatives from 30 different species. Some were former consortium officials, others were newly independent races, and all were here to forge a different kind of future. 1 year ago, she began, we showed the galaxy that patience should never be mistaken for weakness, that compliance should never be confused with submission. But today, we gather for something more important than celebrating past victories. The massive chamber's holographic displays showed scenes from across known space, joint human-alien research projects, combined fleet exercises, newly established trade routes freed from artificial restrictions. What had begun as humanity's bid for independence had evolved into something far more significant. The consortium's greatest mistake, Chen continued, wasn't in underestimating humanity's capabilities. It was in believing that progress could be controlled, that innovation could be restricted, that any species' potential could be artificially limited. In orbit above them, ships from a dozen different species patrolled together, their designs showing the influence of shared technology and cooperative development. The Arcturians had contributed their mastery of energy fields, the Centaurians their quantum computation expertise, and humanity its gift for combining disparate technologies in unexpected ways. We stand here today not as conquerors or rebels, but as equals, each species bringing its own strengths, its own perspectives, its own innovations to share. The age of artificial restrictions and controlled development is over. Welcome to an era of true cooperation. Director Marcus Wong, seated in the human delegation, smiled as he reviewed reports from across human space. The Proxima Centauri colony, once threatened with displacement, had become a thriving hub of multi-species research and development. The quantum shield technology that had protected it now formed the basis for a shared defensive network that protected all member worlds. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, now heading the cooperative's Joint Technology Division, stood to present the next agenda item. We've confirmed that the last remnants of the consortium's restricted technology protocols have been eliminated from member systems. All species now have full access to their own innovations and developments. Former High Counselor Zenra, her crystalline form now showing patterns of acceptance and hope, addressed the assembly. The consortium's former leadership has completed its transition to the new advisory role. We offer our experience, not as controllers, but as partners in this new endeavor. The change hadn't been without challenges. Some former consortium hardliners had attempted to maintain the old power structure, but faced with the united front of newly empowered species, they had eventually accepted the new reality. The few who hadn't found themselves isolated, their influence waning as the benefits of true cooperation became apparent. Our strength, Chen concluded, lies not in controlling each other, but in lifting each other up. Humanity didn't just fight for its own freedom. We fought for the right of every species to reach its full potential. As if to emphasize her point, the station's quantum displays showed the launch of the first joint expedition beyond known space. The ships, crewed by members of multiple species and incorporating technology from dozens of worlds, represented everything the consortium had feared and everything the cooperative hoped to achieve. We've already seen what we can accomplish when we work together as equals. Chen gestured to the displays. New medical treatments combining multiple species' understanding of biology. Defense systems that incorporate diverse approaches to physics and energy manipulation. Ships that draw on the best aspects of every member's technology. The assembly chamber hummed with energy as representatives discussed upcoming projects and initiatives. Where the consortium had demanded obedience, the cooperative fostered dialogue. Where restriction had been the norm, innovation was now celebrated. Colonel Maya Patel, the defender of Proxima Centauri, now served as the head of the cooperative's strategic planning division. The greatest weapon humanity had, she told a group of younger diplomats, was our ability to learn from everything, even from the restrictions placed upon us. Now imagine what we can all achieve when we share knowledge freely. As the session concluded, Admiral Chen stood at one of the station's vast observation windows, watching ships from dozens of worlds moving in harmony through space. Humanity's patience had indeed run out, but what had replaced it was something far more valuable: hope for a future where no species' potential would ever be artificially constrained again. The day everything changed had become the day everything improved. Not through dominance or control, but through the simple, powerful act of species choosing to work together as equals. The galaxy had learned what humanity had known all along: that true strength lies not in the power to restrict others, but in the wisdom to help them grow.